All right. If you are not a big fan of trial and error, you have another option, and it is a surefire way to get the correct answer every time as long as there are no mistakes made on your part. So we're going to say page 593. You do not have to retitle this. This is just part 2, which you're going to do the X factor. Okay? So, no more trial and error. Let's go to, I'm going to start you off with an easy one. First thing we need to talk about before we go any further is this. If you ever go to factor and you're given a problem like this, the leading coefficient, if you remember, which is basically the squared term when it's in standard form, can never be negative. If it's kind of like that, you need to get rid of it. You never divide by a fraction, you multiply by the reciprocal, right? So what could I do to change this problem? It's really easy. If this starts out this way, then you filter it out, which means now it's positive, but that means now this is negative, and so is this one. Okay? It just has to change everything because when you factor, you can never have like negative x times x. Just the squared term always has to be positive. So the only way to do that is to factor it out. But look what that means for your answer now. It just means that it's part of your answer. That's it. So if you have an x times an x, a positive and a negative, well, that's 5 and 4, obviously, but I'm looking for a -1, which means the 5 has to be, okay? So if you factor this problem as this answer and forget to put that, it's wrong.
Wait, where'd you get 1 and 5?
I was 4 and 5. Sorry. Talking while I'm trying to write at the same time. Okay? So that just has to be part of your answer. That's the only thing. Okay. Are you ready for X factor?
No.
Yes, you are. And you can get it. And at first you're going to watch me do it and you're going to be like, holy smokes, like that's just way too much. But the next time I do it, you'll start to get it.
Holy shit.
Yes. In order to, yeah, that's probably going to sound real good on that. In order to remember, we have to remember how to do factor or foiling. Remember when I taught you FOIL, like I said, let's multiply 3x plus 8 times x plus 5. And I said, could you do 3x plus 8 here and x plus 5 here? And it was kind of like Battleship, right? This times this was that, like a multiplication table would work. So you did 3x times x and got 3x squared. You did 3x times 5 and you got 15x, right? Then you did 8 times x and you got your 8x. And your 8 times 5 was your 40. Good? Okay? Then I said combine your like terms. And your like terms were always these two corner boxes, weren't they? So your final answer was 3x squared plus 22x, 23, I can add today, and then plus 40, right? So watch for a second. Does everybody agree that this first term goes in the first box? Yes. And the last term goes in the last box, right? So if the first term goes in the first box and the last term goes in the last box, these two are my x terms that get combined for the middle term, right? Okay. So let's do this. Let's pretend like I don't know that table. Let's just start out. Actually, we're going to take a little bit easier numbers on this to get started with. Are you ready? Let's do this problem. Looking for a good one. One that doesn't have negatives yet. Oh, I mean, I guess we could. Nah. No, I got it right here. So we're going to do, hold on, 3x squared plus 7x plus 4. Okay, easy peasy, starting out real quick. Well, to start with the x factor, you make a big X. Okay, because you're going to have to fill each of those numbers, spaces in with a number. In order to do that, you need to know what A is, you need to know what B is, and you need to know what C is. And to get A, B, and C, you have to have it in standard form. The A is this number in front of the x squared term. The B is the x term, and the C is the constant. So A is 3, B is 7, C is 4. Okay, let's follow me here. Then the x factor is completed by taking the A times the C and putting it there, and the B goes at the bottom. So it's AC, and then just think B by itself at the bottom. Always, yep. So you're always, as soon as you identify your A and your C, you're going to multiply them together. So what's A times C? 12. And B is 7. And this is kind of a sly way around, well, I can't just go by what do I multiply to get this and add to get that, because that 3 is there. Now look, what do I multiply to get 12 but add to get 7? 3 and 4. So I put the 3 here and the 4 there. So let me just back up a second. Step 1, find the A, B, and C. Step 2, multiply the A times the C and put it there. Multiply this B and put it there. Or just do the B. Okay? Now hold on. Now I make this. Yes, it's the magic rectangle. Now, if you remember me up here, didn't I say the first went in the first and the last went in the last? So let's go to our original equation and put the first in the first and the last in the last. Good with that so far? Which leaves you, and I'm going to try to visually train your mind to picture those two corners with what? The 3 and the 4, except what has to be there? The x's, right? So you're going to put a 3x here and a 4x there, and hopefully you're thinking, does it matter where I put them? Answer is no. You could totally have put each in the other spot. Because just watch. Now, here's the thing. The x part, once we use it to find out 3 and 4, it's useless to us. So you won't use that 12 and that 7 again. The x factor is just a method to help us find my 3 and my 4. Once I find that 3 and that 4 and I put it here, this is all I need. Watch. You're going to be like, holy cow, I get it. So, remember when we talked about GCFs? Do you see 2 rows? And do you see 2 columns? It's backwards. Do you see 2 columns? And do you see 2 rows? We're going to pull the GCF out of all of them. So what is the GCF of 3x squared and 3x? What is the GCF of 4x and 4? What is the GCF, isn't it awesome, of 3x squared and 4x? And what's the GCF of 3x and 4? And I know you're looking at that thinking, it doesn't have one. If it doesn't have one, it really does. It's a 1. Guess what your answer is? 3x plus 4 times x plus 1. Yep. Pretty cool, huh? Yep. Now, here's the thing. You may look at that and say, prime number, kind of easy enough. I'm going to do a guess and check. You're going to get to some where you're going to look at and say, I am going to X factor that one out. Okay? And I know that took us a while, but let's just do another one because I have to introduce what happens when you do it with negatives. Are you ready? So let's take 3x squared minus 22 plus 22x minus 16. Okay? Now, this one, not so bad to factor, but it may not be because of, the 16 has 3 sets. But you know what? Let's just do X factor on this one. A, B, and C. And I'm just writing this to help you. Do you have to write what A, B, and C are? No. A is 3, B is 22, and C is negative 16. So I multiply the A times the C. 16 times 3 is negative 48. And then 22. So you look at this, and you may, 48 has a lot of factors, but you already know one of them's positive and one of them's negative. I'm looking to subtract and get 22. So anybody know? It's not too bad. Anybody know? To get 48, it would be what?
Positive 24, negative 2.
Okay, 24 times 2, right? 24 times 2 and 24 minus 2. Good. I want this to be positive, so the 24 goes here and the 2 goes there. Are you okay with what we just did? Okay. So were they a little bit bigger numbers than we wanted to? Yeah. All right. Now that I got my x factor, I don't really need it after I fill these in. The first goes in the first, the last goes in the last. Now there's something happens here with negatives that you need to pay attention on because it's different with negatives. And then here's your visual. What goes in those boxes? Your 24x and your negative 2x. Once you have the box filled out, you are like you're on the home stretch. If you can successfully pull out the GCFs, you'll have your answers on the edges, right? So let's look at this. 3x squared and negative 2x squared. Just an x, okay? Bless you. I said bless you to your hiccup. By the way, have you ever factored and had an answer of negative x and x? No. Those terms from your x's should never have a negative in it. Remember what we did with it anyway? We pulled it out in the front. So we factored this. Now what can I pull out of this? A 4, but also an 8, right? So I'm going to pull out an 8. All right. Now what can I pull out of 3x squared and 24x? A 3 and an x, right? Are both of those positive? Yeah, so we're good. I want to keep that positive. And what can I pull out of a negative 2x and a negative 16? A negative 2. Okay. So now be careful because look, you have to check these answers. Is this times this that? Is 2 times negative? That's good. 8 is positive times negative is negative. So we're good. So this, yeah. No, it would mean, I'm going to show you in a minute what it means. It means you're going to pull out, it's like, here I could have pulled out a negative here. Let me get to the next example and I'll show you. So this one here, your answer is x plus 8, 3x minus 2. Okay? Yes. Yes, please do. Okay. Are you okay on the x factor so far? Now, there's one other little, I don't know, call it a little glitch. But let's do this. Let's do this one. 4x squared minus 9x plus 5. This will be the last one we do here. X factor. A times C. You don't have to write them out. A times C is 20. B is at the bottom. It's negative 9. I'm looking for two numbers that when I multiply them I get 20, but when I add them, I get negative 9. Negative 4 and plus negative 5. And here's the thing, you want to add them, not subtract them. So negative 4, negative 5. Okay, is everybody okay with that? Once you have it and you copy it in here, you don't need your x factor anymore. It's just a means to help us figure a couple things out. Okay, remember these numbers, that's what I meant to do, is highlight these, because these two numbers go in these two spots. So your first in your original problem goes in your first. So you don't ever need the 20 and the 9, right? The last goes in the last. And then you put your negative 4x and your negative 5x. Okay. So I want something, I'm going to do something, and you're going to be like, oh, no, that doesn't work. So just kind of watch for me a second. What does this have in common? The what? An x. So you know what I'm going to say here? Let's do these two things first. Let's do this spot here and this spot here to make sure neither one of these are negative. So a 4x squared and a negative 4x have a 4 and an x in common. I don't want it to be negative. So now, I know you're looking at this thinking, oh, a 4x and a 5 have a 1 in common, right? Okay, right? But doesn't this times this need to give you that? So the 1 has to be, yes, I want you to think about this. If that 4x is negative, doesn't mean that one of these two has to be negative. And if this one can't be, then this one's got to be. So now let's look at the other thing. If I'm going now to find this one, I know that I need this number times this number to give me that number. So this is a negative 1. This has got to be a negative 5, right? So my thing to you is, you may not have looked at that and thought to pull out a negative 5, did you? Right? So now my answer is x minus 1, 4x minus 5. Okay? Yeah, basically what you have to think is, I would do probably get these two terms first, make sure they're positive, and then just ask yourself, if this is already a negative 1 and I need it to be a 5, whatever has to go here next, it goes right there. Okay, do you want to try 1 on your own? Let's see if you can do it. I'm trying to find one we didn't do yet. Yeah. Okay, here's the thing, another thing. As I'm looking at this, is this a good candidate for a trial and error, or for a X factor? Probably not, because when I multiply my A times my C, I get 270. And I don't really feel like dealing with all the factors of 270. So then you might say, I'm going to do a trial and error. So do you see how being equipped with both kind of helps you? So let me give you one more to try. I want to do, not that one. Let's do this. Negative 6k squared minus 13k minus 6. So right off the bat, you have to know to do what? Get that out. Which means now this is a positive 6k squared, a positive 13k, and a positive 6. Got it? But I'm going to give you a different one now because I want you to get practice with doing those two negatives. So I'm looking for a plus on the end with a negative. Let's do, okay, perfect. 2c squared, no, minus 7c plus 3. All right, try to X factor that one out for me. Yeah. I mean, like I said, you could do a trial and error, but yeah. But you missed something while you were getting a drink, so I want you to watch this one.
It's great. They won't go away. It's like chugging through. It won't go away.
Okay, let's keep going. Come on. I want to see if you guys can do this on your own.
I'll write it down before I check it out.
As long as the first one goes in the first and the last one goes in the last, it doesn't matter where you put the other two. They're totally interchangeable. can kind of check up here for progress if you need to.
Like figuring out how to get the top number.
Yeah. Okay, so remember what I said, do these two first, because these are the terms that absolutely have to be positive. So what does a 2c squared and a negative 6c have in common? A 2 and a c. What does a 2c squared and a negative c have in common? Just a c. Now I can do the other two. This times this is that. So this times this needs to give me that. So you could look at it as, what does it need to be here? Yeah, but why is that not working? What did I mess up here? Okay, say that again. That's right. I'm sorry. I pointed to it. Okay, I said the first and the first and the last and the last, and then wrote the 7. Thank you. Woo. That could mess it up, huh? All right, so that is a +3, which totally changes that. Because now, what happens here? 2c squared plus 3. What am I messing up here? 6, negative 7, negative 6. What is that? Negative 1c, negative 6. Okay, I'm not seeing this here. So this is, this will work now, duh. That fixes everything. So this is just going to be what? Okay, so now you know that has to, that fixed it. I don't know why I was thinking something else was wrong. This has to be a negative 3, right? Because this times this has to give me that. Otherwise, you may not have looked at that and thought, pull a negative out, right? You would have thought just 3, okay? So now this times this needs to give me that. So that has to be what? Negative 1. And you may not have thought to do that. Okay, 2c minus 1, we got it now. And c minus 3. Got it? Okay, your assignment, 596. 5